YouTube, what's up? Back again for another daily fishing video here on Andrew Upshaw Fishing. Just wrapped up practice here at Smith Lake for the second Central Open of the year, the 8th of 9 tournaments. So only 2 tournaments left on the Bass Open schedule, thank goodness. Guys, I'm just worn down. My body's shot. I actually had to take today off. You know, we're staying right here by the lake, and I can hear boats just running back and forth and trying to get that last few hours of practice, and honestly, it just was too much. Like, I've been working my butt off so much at this point. I just need to make sure all my boats in line and all that. We've had a massive amount of rain the last few days. And as you can tell, I forgot to turn my auto bilge on. And yeah, that's water standing in the bottom of my boat. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. But so I'm gonna have to bilge that out after I talk to y'all. But I want to give y'all a recap of what happened on day 2. The weights definitely don't tell the story of how it went. So day 2 was really lucky. I had a late boat draw. First day, I didn't have very much time. I just had to roll with it. I had to just try to catch as much as I could with a real short amount of time. Day 2, I'm like, man, I'm gonna have a long day. I'm gonna catch them. Well, the fish had a different story that day, you know, and it was for most people. You know, not very many people I talked to on day 2 really did very well, especially early. I started off on a spot that I caught the thunder cricket fish on the day before. It wasn't happening. I threw around top water, threw around thunder cricket, and I happened to be on a point, and this particular point it looked great on the map. And I just scanned out there and I saw a brush pile. So I scan out there and I see this brush pile and I'm like, man, there's a couple fish in it. I throw out there, miss one right off the bat. I'm like, dang it, I felt like a decent one. Throw back in there, catch a keeper. I'm like, all right, ain't nothing wrong with that. It's like, we've only been fishing for like 20 minutes. So like, I'll take it, you know? I mean, it was good. It's exactly what I needed, that good, fast start. Well, I didn't catch anything. I ran a bunch more topwater stuff, and I really didn't make very many more casts on that brush pile. I just rolled out. And it's mainly because I had a lot of topwater stuff I wanted to hit, and I wanted to run a lot of things that I had in my head. It's funny, you know, quite a few guys in the top 10 were throwing prop baits, and that's actually what I tied on day 2 and thought I had the best shot at catching some fish on was a prop bait. So I tied that on. I never caught any on it, but I really felt like that was the way to go because they were up there eating bluegill. Well, fast forward, I run to some docks. I actually run to a set of docks that had all those bites on. And like literally the second skip off under one of them that I'd had a fish on the day before, I catch a 2-pound largemouth, or right at 2-pound largemouth. Now we're just some good docks. Yeah, big one. Yeah, it is. Oh, get outside now. Holy crap. I got lucky I caught that one. And I'm like jacked at this point. I'm like, heck yeah, I got 2 fish. It's 10 o'clock. I've got a bunch of time left. Well, pretty much that entire day, one thing I was dealing with was battery issues. You know, I had charged my batteries and all that, and basically when we started the day, every time I cranked my motor, things were shutting down, live scope was shutting off, units were shutting off, and this is first thing in the morning, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be a long day. I have a 5 o'clock weigh-in, and stuff's already shutting down. We're gonna have a long day. So 10 o'clock, go catch that 2-pounder. I actually missed one that I shouldn't have missed. I butt fumbled it again. And, you know, I saw it eat it on the way down. My line jumped. I set the hook on slack line. You know the story, guys. And it came off of the boat. Just a keeper, though. It wasn't a big one. And, I mean, some of it did get found, surprisingly enough. I saw some boats on it yesterday, and I was like, really? Oh my god, I did the same thing I did yesterday. Freaking slackline hook set. I knew. What an idiot. I'm a freaking idiot. My goodness. And I couldn't catch up with him. I knew he barely had it. Dang it. Well, that's gone. And anyways, I get past that fish and I get ready to move to the next set of docks and I start my motor up and do literally everything shuts down. And at this point, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned because it's 10 o'clock and my stuff is like shot. My cranking battery is. Well, I've got the power pole charge on my boat, and I've talked adamantly about how great this thing is. Well, I get on my app on my phone, and I change the, there's a spot on there where you can actually change how much it charges. It'll like 50% your troll motor and 50% your motor. So I actually put all the priority on my motor's battery, so the cranking battery. And I told my co-angler, I said, hey man, like, I hate to do this, but we're gonna run way up the river. Now, granted, I practiced up there, and I had like a couple places up there I thought I could get some bites. And, but it wasn't my primary deal at all. But the only reason I did that is to run my motor to have enough charge to fish the rest of the day. So I literally ran all the way up there. I wasted a lot of time because it wasn't even in my game plan to do in the tournament. Like, it absolutely was so far away from everything else I was fishing. So I run way up there. I fished one spot and I missed one. Actually, I think it was probably a pretty good one. I don't know. I never saw it. It just, the way it bit and the way it acted, it felt like it was the right one. And I just screwed up. I had so much on my mind with the motor and trying to understand what was going on and what I could do to fix it maybe. There's nothing you can do to fix it other than get a new battery. Oh, what? And, yeah, so I run up there and I told him, I said, well, now we're just going to run back. So, I mean, we wasted like a good, like, at least 45 minutes of running just to try to charge the battery. And then the rest of the day, it was a lot of the same. Like, it was just, you know, things were shutting down. And it got to the point where I was like, when I'd make a decision, it was basing my decision off, okay, where can I stop? And if I get stuck there and nothing works, I can catch a limit there. And that's where my mind went. It's like, okay, I'm not stopping on anything that's a single fish spot. And it really adjusted and changed the way that I was fishing the tournament dramatically. Because, you know, in this particular event, I needed to make about 30 to 40 stops a day. I couldn't do that because every time I cranked that engine, it was just like, is this going to be the time it doesn't work? And so what I ended up doing, about 2:30, I still had 2 fish. Or 3, no, it was like 3:30. I had 2 fish left. And I told him, I said, you know what? We're running back to that brush pile that I caught that keeper off this morning. And I'm in a bad mood. I'm just going to tell you, I was in a foul mood. And it was because I just had so much kind of going wrong. And I pull back up to that brush pile. I scan into it with my live scope. And sure enough, they're there. I throw in there, first cast, catch a keeper. Fish on it. Shit. I needed him to keep that in his belly. That's funny. Fish all these places where you get these bites. And you come back to a place that you... Oh, wait, did you keep? Barely. He's 14. Quarter. Wow, that only took hours. Like, alright. Throw back in there, catch a keeper. Next cast. And then cast after that, I throw back in there and catch another keeper. And I'm like, holy crap, we just went from 2 to 5 in like 3 casts. Like, crap, that's awesome. And I cull a couple times right there. Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely get rid of black. And I sit down, I'm like, all right, we got to move. I don't want to move, but we got to move. They're just not biting. They were getting smaller. I was catching some more, but they were real little. I was like, we gotta get out of here. And I I sit down to start the motor and it cranks like it never even been dead or anything in its life. Everything stayed on, and it was like a light switch flipped and God was saying, hey, you know what? It's time for you to go do your job. And that's what I did. I ran to my next brush pile. And granted, they did not bite on my brush piles on day one. I could not get bites on them. And maybe I just wasn't spending enough time on them or hit them at the right time of day. You know, everything in fishing's timing. But I pull up to my next brush pile, and sure enough, as soon as I pull up, catch one, catch another one, catch another one, and I catch like 4 or 5 out of that one. And I call again, and I'm like, all right, man, heck yeah. And I was like, I got another brush pile. We pull up to that one, I catch a couple more out of, I think 3 or 4 more out of that one brush pile. My culling lure catches a good one out of the brush pile. And my day flip-flopped so incredibly much. Like, it was remarkable, like, to see the turnaround in the day. It doesn't always happen like that, but what it does tell me is that even on your worst day, even when you're having that day where it's just like terrible, like every decision you're making is wrong, sometimes you got to reset, recalibrate, and go to some confidence. And that's what I did in that particular situation. I went to a place where I'd had a bite already that day. That particular day, not last week, not last month. I went to the one spot that had a bite that day. And they were there, and I caught some more fish, and it gave me more confidence. And confidence in this sport is everything, because then it helps you make better decisions and smarter decisions. And that's exactly what it did for me. I mean, it just gave me the confidence that I could roll up and catch them, and it just worked out. It doesn't always do that. So to give you a lineup of what I caught them on, how I caught them, I mean, it's pretty easy to know. I caught, when I was shallow, I caught some skipping a jig, a green pumpkin jig with a rage crawl in some cases, and sometimes a rage chunk, just depending on what the situation was. And that's when I was fishing docks and stuff like that. It's full-size jig. You want that big jig. 20-pound line, 20-pound fluorocarbon, Strike King fluorocarbon. And then when I was out deep, and which I thought was probably the coolest part and the most fun, was I was throwing a Frenzy Nail shaky head. And then this shaky head's made by a buddy of mine, Greg Gutierrez, out west. And he's won like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on this particular jig head. And at first, I didn't really know how to use it, and it's just one of those jig heads that I've incorporated into my shaky head game, and basically the one I throw 99.999% of the time. The only time I don't throw it is if I need an 1/8 ounce, and that's if the fish can see it coming down, and that's a suspended fish thing, but that's for another day. But basically, I was throwing that shaky head with a green pumpkin finesse worm on it. It didn't really matter what color green pumpkin. We get so caught up in colors. I literally had 5 different colors I was switching through, and it wasn't even, I wasn't saying, well, I'm going to throw the one green flake or blue flake when it's sunny and silver flake when it's, cloudy or whatever. No, I just picked up whatever one I had that I had access to quickly, and I tied that on, and it worked. So, but yeah. And now on the drop shot, I mean, it was super simple, guys. That was kind of my cleanup. And I was just throwing a real small 4-inch worm, Morning Dawn color. Definitely seemed to be effective. Now, the thing about the drop shot that was most effective, though, is you'd have to flip it in there. And you didn't want to give it too much action, but you had to still give it some action. Sometimes in the drop shot, we tend to either overshake it or not shake it enough. And I feel like there's a good happy medium there. And that's kind of where I was keeping my action. But I think line size had a lot to do with that. I was throwing 6-pound test. I know some of the brush piles I was fishing had pressure from other boats, and anytime you get in a situation where a lot of places you're fishing are getting pressure from others, you have to adjust your line size. Now, can fish sea line? Probably not. But what it does is that smaller line gives your bait a completely different action than your other baits. So in that situation, I felt like it gave my bait a different action, especially in the drop shot. And I think it made a big, big difference. On the shaky head, I was throwing 8-pound test. So I was kind of mixing it up depending on the type of technique. But it definitely seemed to pay off. Finished 40th place. I caught literally 4 ounces lighter than I did on day one. And like I said, I had a shot at a little bit better bag. Not much better, but a little bit better. And I learned a lot. So now we're at Smith Lake. Todd and Hallman are already out there practicing on the final day. Like I said, I chose not to go out there. It just didn't seem like it was in my best interest to go out there and spread myself out even more than I already have. Guys, if you looked at my depth finder right now, I've got this entire lake just like waypoints everywhere. And it's because I've just spent so much time out here graphing and fishing and checking things and marking brush piles and doing all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping it's going to be a good event. I really don't know. Practice has been really, really hard. But you know, those really hard tournaments seem to be the best ones sometimes. So I'm really looking forward to it. I got a lot of maintenance to do on this boat though, guys. I got to drain this water out. I got to do my rods. I mean, obviously you see I've got like 20 rods on the front deck. So I got a lot of work. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'll have Smith Lake to you pretty quickly. If y'all have any topics that y'all want to talk about, make sure you drop them below. I'd love to hear what they are. I know I've been kind of slack on answering some of the comments. Like I said, I've been on the road a lot. Guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope y'all enjoyed this recap. And I'll see you on the next video.